However, I think all of these politicians and world leaders are unhinged, Todd. I think they're all kind of following a script. I think the purpose is kind of like a reset to globalize things. And so without going into any crazy conspiracies and being called a conspiracy theorist and all that, I want to leave your audience with some hope. Because I think what we have to be concerned about more so than, Trump taking over Canada or Greenland and all those other, fantastical things that we're hearing about in the media, I think we need to worry about a whole separate country that's coming to annex this place, to take over this world, and that's the kingdom of God. That's Jesus Christ, the King of all kings, who is coming to this world, Todd, soon, literally, descending upon this world with his kingdom. And so I think we need to set our eyes on that. So I would encourage people to read their Bibles, to get back into God's word, and if we follow his ways, get back to the ancient paths of keeping his commandments, we will do so much better.
Have you tried sanctified blend coffee yet? This stuff is organically grown, then roasted in the USA by Moose Run Coffee. If you like a smooth cup of joe, then head on over to sanctifiedsupplyco.com and use the discount code KEN10 when you check out to save 10% on your order. Bold flavor for bold believers.
This is good stuff.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Hanging on His Words. My name's Ken Heidebrecht, and I thank you for joining me this evening for a broadcast regarding the solar calendar. This baby right here. Many of you guys have received them. I've taken orders over the last few months, and I appreciate everybody supporting me and supporting this ministry through that means. I hope everyone has their calendar who has ordered them, and if not, please email me. We'll see what's going on with that. But yeah, so this broadcast tonight is going to be relatively simple. Just a basic review regarding this calendar, why I'm on it, why I adhere to it and think it's a true, relatively accurate calendar. One that I think the ancients, Israelites, did follow, and why I think it's important for us to maybe learn about it and consider looking into it, because from my experience, it definitely helps us better understand not only the creation model and the luminaries that perform their circuits, but it aligns throughout the week perfectly when feast days are happening. So every time we see feast days being mentioned in Scripture, it just always lines up with this calendar in a really accurate way. And so if that's an important thing for you in your walk, if you feel the need to participate in Yahweh's covenant by keeping his commandments and some of his commandments regarding feast keeping in particular, then this calendar might be intriguing to you, because it's a relatively simple one, like I said, once you actually look into it and start participating in it. Before we get going here, I just want to say hi. It's been a while, guys. It's been a country while since I've done one of these live streams. So I figured, because the new year, the head of the year, technically has started already. It's tonight on this calendar. And I wanted to just say hi to folks. It's been a little bit. I want to mingle in the chat a little bit, see what people are saying, how they're doing. I know there's going to be some naysayers regarding this calendar. That's fine. Just like any topic in Christendom or in the Hebrew Roots Torah movement, there's always going to be contention and different opinions regarding things like calendars, and I get that, and that's been a reality for me over the past few years since I've started looking into calendation, and specifically the solar calendar, which is primarily out of First Enoch and Jubilees, ancient Israelite texts that were found in Dead Sea Scrolls, and I think are relevant scripture and should be upheld as such. That's a determination that I've come to in my life, that these ancient writings are God's word. They're part of God's word. They're in my Bible. They're a scripture for me, and so this is how the calendar manifests itself in these writings. And so this is why I've kind of gravitated towards this calendar, because it's clearly in there. And we're going to go over a couple of those texts in a little bit. But before we do, just want to say hi. Tuber Rose 11 saying Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well. Thanks for joining us. GR Cleves here. Shalom and Happy New Year. Thanks, guys, for joining. Appreciate you. I know you I think are a week behind or ahead. I think you started the ahead of the year last week, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that, but either way, I appreciate you guys for coming on tonight, and I'm glad that you're doing your research and doing Yah's ways, and it's great to see you guys here. We have the Fight for Truth saying he would thought he would stop by and say hi to everybody. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Country Dad's in the house. Hello, Matt. Thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate you. Hope you guys are doing well. You're doing the country fam there. My camera's moving a little bit here. I don't know what's going on with my little gimbal. I wanted to point my camera a little differently tonight. To kind of mix things up a bit there, but it wants to shake for some reason. I'm showing off all my gear. I don't have names for them yet, but this is my bass guitar. This is an electric guitar, and they're going to be featured on my new album, which I'm still working on, still coming out. My brother Daniel Heck is playing the drums, and so we're doing things a little unorthodoxly. It's taking a little extra time, but I wanted to involve him in this project because he's an amazing drummer and a talent that I didn't want to pass up in this coming album. So I'm hoping for a release mid to late summer, and it's going to be a full, complete 10-11 song album. So I hope you guys look forward to that if you're interested in the music that I produce. What else we got here? We have Miss Dahlia. Oops. Shalom, sister. Shalom, brother, and family at Hanging On His Word. Stopping by to say hi. I'll catch the video later for sure. Okay. Thank you, sister. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Mr. James Apple. Shalom, future immortals. Hey, brother. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hopefully you get some answers for why we have decided to start the head of the year today, as opposed to last week or other calendars when they start them. And so hopefully you get some answers tonight. We have Jessica Bale here saying hello, first year adhering to this calendar. Awesome, sister. Neat to be able to pop on here for a bit with y'all. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Appreciate you. It's a neat calendar for sure. I like it. I mean, I'm biased, but I think it's pretty sweet. Prophecy Vine is here saying shalom to everybody. Next Level Solutions HVAC. Shalom and Happy New Year. Yes, Happy New Year. It's the head of the year, and I'm excited. That means it's 1 year closer to Yeshua's return, right? Ultimately, it's kind of what we're setting our eyes upon, is that magnificently incredible eschatological event of our Messiah returning to the earth with the New Jerusalem in tow, and a calendar and a constitution and righteousness, justice, all those amazing things that we're setting our eyes upon. So we're 1 year closer. So maybe this calendar can help us be reminded of that in some regard. Who else do we have here? We have Shraka in the house saying, shalom, I have not received my calendar yet. It's in transit, but I was shocked to learn that Passover was moved to a different date. Looking forward to get an understanding as to why. I'm not sure which date you thought it was going to be, sister, but perhaps tonight you will learn as to why it's going to be the date that it is on this calendar. And hopefully you do get your calendar soon. Guys, it takes weeks from Nova Scotia, Canada. Most of the people that have ordered these calendars from me are from the United States, and depending on which state you're from, it can take up to 3. I've seen even 4 weeks for people to get their calendar. I'm so sorry that it's taken that long. I think you understand, just how things are slow in general, but now that we have the craziness between Canada and America, we had a postal strike earlier in the year. It was technically in December of last year, but which blocked things up. I don't know. Everything's just slow now. everything costs more now. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I hope that you guys find value in these calendars. And again, if you haven't received yours yet and you did place an order, I would say if you placed an order over a month ago and it hasn't come, reach out to me and we'll see what's going on with that. But other than that, it literally can take up to a month for you to get it. And I'm sorry about that. Country Dad's asking, didn't the new year start last week? Well, it depends on which calendar, brother. Again, we intercalated. And technically, we're supposed to intercalate last year in 2024. And so, for those of you who missed that live stream, George Nuber and I did from GeoTruth, we discuss, that last year the vernal equinox happened on a Tuesday, which would have kicked the head of the year starting on the Wednesday. And then we posit that you rest for 7 days with that calendar when it happens like that. And it makes for the adjustment moving forward in subsequent years, so that the calendar, the head of the year rather, is always happening after the equinox takes place, after the sun has moved over the equator. So whereas some of these calendars are starting their head of the year before the sun has moved over the equator, before the vernal equinox has actually taken place. And we don't think that that's correct. We think it needs to start after, when spring has actually come. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. And when I'm talking in plural purposely, because I am going to bring Brother George Nuber on from GeoTruth in just a little bit. He graciously offered to come on when he found out that I was going to be doing a live stream about this. And he just wanted to offer up some hints, some tips, a couple things regarding sundials and how we can use a sundial ourselves in our location, wherever we're located on the earth, to determine when the equinox has taken place. And so it's awesome. Brother George is awesome. We love him. What else we got here? Robert Hernandez is here saying, Shalom, family. Shalom, brother. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming on tonight. We have Emmanuel Marias Jr. Happy new blessed year. Amen. You too, brother. Appreciate you. Tracy Jones is here in a makeup class with Sean. I'll catch this later on. Yes, unfortunately, Sean had a class tonight. I think he was supposed to have held it yesterday, but something came up and he had to postpone it to today. So I'm live streaming and he's doing a class at the same time. I think actually he's doing the class now. I could be wrong, but either way, it's fine. People can watch us after if they want. But thank you, sister, for popping on and saying hi. Mashiachim saying shalom. Shalom. Appreciate you. Country Fun's here. Hey, Sam. Hope you're doing well. Teresa's here. Hi, everyone. Happy real New Year. Amen. Not sure which Teresa this is. Is this a Teresa Nuber? I'm not sure. Would she be on? Not sure. If not, I apologize if I am calling out the wrong Teresa. It's only your first name here, so I've made an assumption and it might not be correct. But either way, whichever Teresa it is, I'm appreciative that you're here. Island Girl 4444 is saying hi there. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, sister. Thanks for joining us. Nicholas is on here saying, can you please simply explain why the calendar changed from your last year's? Yes, we will. We'll get to that. I just want to say hi to people before we get into that, though. Okay, brother? Appreciate you. I know that the previous calendar, it's interesting, right? You get to the last day, you get to month 12, the 31st day on month 12, and then there's a 7-day gap, and it starts, you know what I mean? So I understand why people are like, what's going on here? Technically, and I didn't know this because I didn't have our in-house engineer and scholar, George Nuber, with me at the time, but it was determined that we were supposed to intercalate last year already. I didn't know that. I went with the Dead Sea Scroll clan and their dates for when to start last year's head of the year, and we didn't have the information that we have now because the the research wasn't done properly, in my opinion. The experiments, the observations weren't done. People were just making assumptions, and so that's why there's a change. So hopefully this year we're on a better track. And again, if you disagree, that's fine. That's completely fine. We all have to kind of follow this calendar the way we think that it's appropriate and correct. And I think the way that I'm understanding it currently is the more accurate way. And I could be wrong. I'm always going to be willing to admit that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If better information comes up, better observations, more information manifests, proving me wrong, okay, well, we'll have to make a change, right? That's what this is about. And so I'm not impervious to being wrong. I've been wrong many times in my life, and hopefully humility has started to become a character trait of mine. Still have a long way to go, but I want to be humble enough to if I'm wrong on something, admit it, confess it, and change it. So yeah, brother, just stick around for a bit, and we'll get to that. We'll say hi to a few more people, and then I'll get going just on a basic review. I'm going to pull up the calendar. Guys, if you're interested in this calendar real quick, I don't have any more copies left. I don't have any more physical copies left, but there's a free PDF I uploaded to my Patreon page. So if you go to Patreon and type in Hanging on His Words, find me there. And you can scroll down just a few pages and you'll see that there's a PDF that you can upload or download rather for yourself if you want to do it that way. Then you have a digital copy and you can use this calendar as well. Boaz is here saying, "Yah bless, fam." Yah bless. Aaron Schlosser, shalom, fam. Shalom, brother. Appreciate you, brother. Sanctified Supply Co's in the house. Hey there, brother. Looking forward to the new music. Yes. Yes, me too. Me too. Sanctified Supply Company. Guys, great company. I mean, look at this sweater. I'm currently in my basement. It's still quite a cold climate here, and I am feeling toasty in this. Isn't it nice looking? You got a nice blue color now. They had a brown as well. It's beautiful. They got new hats with the Shema on the brim. Isn't that amazing? That's so cool. I got a new patch, new logo here. Loving it. If you guys saw at the beginning of the broadcast, they have coffee, which is amazing. I love it. It woke me up, gave me an extra boost to my day. So Sanctified Supply Company, guys. And if you're interested in anything that they have there, all you have to do is put Ken10 in the discount code bar right at the end when you're checking out, and you save 10% on your whole order. I think that's pretty sweet. We love them. Geo True saying, "Don't you love the curves of those beautiful guitars?" Yes, I do. I do a lot. They sound so good. I'm so excited. I'm giddy. I'm like a little giddy schoolboy who's like just raring to release new music into the world. It's such a passion of mine, guys. And if I could do it full time, I would. That's honestly, there's two things I wanted to do when I was a kid. I wanted to be a pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays, but my parents didn't put me through hardball, so that dream shattered. And the other thing was to be a traveling musician, like in a rock band, in some sort of a band. And I've been in bands since I was probably 14, 15. And I just love music. Love it so much. And so the fact that I get to, create music and release it to people, it just blesses me. And I hope it blesses people because I want to praise our Heavenly Father through it. I want the message of his gospel to ring true in the ears of folks who listen. And so I hope I'm able to do that. I want to be able to accomplish that again in this next album. So yeah, those guitars are going to be featured on it for sure. Okay, well, a couple more. There's more people coming in. That's kind of the case. It's kind of par for the course with live streaming. When you click the button, more and more people join in throughout. And so unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to everybody, but Ruth Friedrich is here. I have not heard any of your music. Where can I find some that you've already completed? Ruth, if you go to YouTube, you can type in Mountains into the Sea, and it's there for free. If you want to support me and actually purchase the music, it's over at Bandcamp. So if you go to Bandcamp and then search for Mountains into the Sea, there should be links in the video descriptions. All my videos on YouTube have them there. But yeah, they're all there as well. My full discography is there. And thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. KMSR 1700 AM. Shalom, guys. Looking forward to the new music, brother. Yes, yes. And then you can put it on your broadcast. Yeah, appreciate you guys. You guys are doing a good work. Love you guys so much. Aaron likes Faithful Functionary. It's a banger, is it? Yeah, you like that one? It's a different one. It's an eclectic like genre, I guess, is what I tap into with my music. I don't like to stick to like one specific sound. I kind of like to, sprinkle little bits of different genres in. And so that's one that I don't tend to stick around in for too long. But that was fun. That was a fun one to produce. I'm glad you like it. Yes, Pamela. Shalom, sister. How exciting. Can't wait for your new music. Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it, guys. Ministria Zerl Messias. Shalom. Happy New Year, brethren. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining us. Okay. I think 2 more. We'll do 2 more. I apologize if I don't get to you. It's been a while, guys. I'm so happy to see you all. Life has been interesting lately. It's been hectic. It's been busy. I work full time. My wife's pregnant. She's approaching her 3rd trimester now, and it's going great. For people who have asked or are wondering, it's going great. She's doing fine. She's maturing beautifully, gestating beautifully. Yes, it's we're so excited. We truly are excited. And I want to thank you guys for those of you who have kindly got us things through the baby registry. Thank you so much. It's such a blessing to not have to worry about that stuff, and the fact that you guys have stepped up and done that for us. I don't have words, honestly. It's weird sometimes just being blessed by people who you don't really know, but aside from just like theological stuff or being in a community, a virtual community. It's hard to accept blessings, and so it's just so meaningful to us. We're so appreciative. My wife says thank you guys so very much. We've sent out cards to those who have support us in that manner. And guys, we're really, really excited. I'm excited to be a dad. It's something I've wanted for a little while. And so, yeah. So I've been working on the baby's room, setting that all up. And we're expecting baby Asher late June. So it's coming. It's coming, guys. I can't wait to teach my son who Yahweh is and his son Yeshua and the kingdom of God and all that stuff. It's one of the things that I guess fantasize about. I think about it a lot, actually, just how I'm going to teach my son to know Yahweh and to walk in his ways and give him a real early start in that regard. So it's exciting for me. Aloha Ministries saying greetings. Shalom. Appreciate you. I know I said one more probably 10 minutes ago, but you keep coming on in. Bible Days is here. Congrats. Thank you. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. Guys, check out Bible Days YouTube channel. This is a brother who also enjoys a lot of the same topics that I cover here at Hanging on His Words. And he's got some amazing visually appealing presentations over on his channel. And so if you want to go over, check him out on YouTube, Bible Days, give him a subscription. I'm sure he'd appreciate that. Perhaps I'll have him on a live stream one of these days. and we can discuss some cool stuff. I think he's into the calendar too. He's into Enoch and all the different gates and everything that the sun moves and travels through. And yeah, really great visually appealing stuff over on his channel. So give him a subscription if you wouldn't mind, guys, if you're interested into that. We need more people, coming up and making content about God's word and all these crazy, amazing findings that we have in books like First Enoch and Jubilees and other removed texts or apocryphal texts that have been deemed apocryphal. And so I want to support channels and ministries and people who have that on their heart to talk about it in a manner that someone like Bible Days can. So go check it out. Beautiful name. Yeah, you like that? Asher. It's a cool name. We wanted to keep it biblical, and my wife didn't want Enoch. She's like, no, that's too on the nose. It's too. Is there anything else? I'm like, Enoch. No. Yeah, we landed on Asher. It just rolls off the tongue nicely. The name has really cool meaning, and one of the 12 tribes, right? So thought that was a cool name. Mary, how do we find the baby registry? Well, sister, I posted it on Facebook a little while ago. That's where it would be. But yeah, if you're interested, you can just shoot me an email and I can give it to you there if you want. That's fine. But yeah, we're very thankful, guys, for all the blessings, all the support, the prayers, the emails that I get, the letters in the mail that I get, the financial support, the Patreon support. Guys, thank you so much. You're helping me in a way that I don't think you realize it's so huge. It's just such a huge help. So thank you very, very much. Yes, brother or sister. Well, we're going to, yes, it means happy. Yeah, it does. So hopefully he'll be a happy boy, a joyful boy. All right, guys. Let's pull the calendar itself up here. Here it is. So this is the 2025-2026 Creation Solar Calendar. We got the different. So I have the peg calendar here too. Some people have been interested in that as well, and wanting a physical kind of calendar the way that I have it laid out here on the page here. And so if you're interested in that too, I do make those. You can reach out, creationsolarcalendar@gmail.com. We can talk about getting one to you. I got one behind me here. I'm not sure if you can see that. Let me see if I can. Let's remove this. Which way is it? This way. Hanging on my wall here. It's about that size. It's right next to the other calendar. Right behind me here. I know I didn't pick the most advantageous angle here because I'm blocking the calendars. But I just wanted a different angle tonight. Anyways. So yeah, this is just what the calendar looks like. So this is the same. This is what the PDF is. If you download it, this is what the physical actual wall calendar features inside of it. So every month I put relevant scriptural references for each month. I didn't have the space to put all the actual scriptures out. I thought that'd be too messy looking. But we'll see. Maybe next year I might do something a little different. Every year I do these, I'm going to change up the designs to kind of keep it fresh, new. But I'm always going to have the bottom part there, though. The sun traveling through the fourth gate. Okay, so we're in this now, guys. Spring, month 1, there's 30 days. The sun's traveling through the fourth gate. There's 10 parts a day, 8 parts night, and that's information found in 1st Enoch 72, 8-10. So the day's getting longer. I love it. And that's because the sun has actually traveled over the equator, and it's in the fourth gate now. That amazing luminary that performs its circuit above us. It's amazing what Yahweh has created that thing to do. All the luminaries. Okay, so we have pertinent dates here on month one. Month one is a feast day heavy month, and so as you can see at the top here, maybe can I zoom that in more? I don't think I can. Yeah. So at the top there, it's the head of the year, right? So it's showing Wednesday as the head of the year, but for those of us who start our days from evening to evening, it started now. So we're at the head of the year now. And it's also a day of remembrance. So that day, from what I gather, isn't a Sabbath. I haven't seen text that would indicate that it's a Sabbath where you have to take it off. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's not. But that's a relevant day for tomorrow or tonight, starting tonight into tomorrow and into tomorrow evening. So yeah, for that, my wife and I, we just have a nice meal, and we recount the scripture in Jubilees regarding that event that corresponds with the flood. I'm not going to get into details on all that. I probably will do a Passover or an unleavened bread live stream, and we'll go through some scriptures. I was planning on going through the timeline of the Passover, and then the whole the events leading up to Yeshua's crucifixion and all that stuff. I have some slides and stuff that I've put on Patreon for people who are interested, where you can check out kind of how I view that whole week, that unleavened bread week, and when Yeshua gets crucified and dies and goes into the tomb and resurrects and all that, just the timing on this calendar with that. So I'll probably do a live stream and go through some of that information. But yes, we have Passover coming up, guys. It's coming up in a couple weeks. So you're going to be marking down on the Gregorian April 8th. Okay, make sure you note that. April 8th. That's the Passover. It's on the 14th day of the first month of this solar calendar. Then the following day, we have unleavened bread, which is a Sabbath. You want to take that one off. That's on April 9th on the Gregorian. And then we have that for a week. So we're going right up to the 21st on the creation solar calendar. And then the Gregorian, it's April 15th. So I have the Gregorian numbers at the bottom left in each square there, just in case people are confused when they're looking at this. I don't know who's new here, who's never seen these calendars before. I'm assuming a lot of you guys are already familiar with this information. Again, it is a review, so I apologize if it's redundant and boring, but there could be some newbies here who have no idea what I'm talking about, so I gotta just fill them in. Okay, so then we get to the 7-week count to Pentecost and First Fruits, which takes place on April 20th of the Gregorian calendar or the 26th. And I might do a live stream that Sunday as well, just to talk about how I came to the 26th being, that date, that day after the Sabbath, as it is in the scripture, when you would start that count, and why I'm counting that particular day, starting the count on that. Okay, so we go to month 2. You have an opportunity on the 14th to do a second Passover. If you missed the first one, you can do, if you want. Again, guys, I want to stress that these feast days, we're practicing, right? These are practices. We're rehearsing for when we're actually going to do them in totality and in perfection once Yeshua returns. And we're participating in the New Jerusalem and His kingdom. All these feasts. So, second Passover. If you've missed the first one, forgot to do it, or something came up, you had work and you couldn't get it off, or whatever the reason is, you have an opportunity to make up for it if you want. Yahweh gave us that instruction. He gave Israel that instruction. So that's there. That's on May 8th. Still on the 14th, same day as the first month, 14th day of the first month, 14th day of the second month. Okay, so that'll be it for that. And then we have, if you see, actually, I should go back. If you see the little red digits at the top right of each calendar day, that's the Omer count that's leading up to the 50th day, which is Pentecost, first fruits, Shavuot. Okay, that's on the 15th day of the third month, June 8th. It's a Sunday. It's the first day of the week. So that's another feast day. Again, I'm going to try to be more diligent this year and do some live streaming with these feasts, so people who aren't as familiar with this stuff can get a decent grasp on what it is, why we do them, where it comes from, and how it corresponds to this calendar. Okay, what else we got here? Not much going on in the summer months here, where feast days are concerned. We've got yeah, not much at all. So once we get to month number 7 is where, again, we have a bunch of different feast days. So we have the Day of Trumpets, which is a Sabbath. That's September 24th on the Gregorian calendar. So it's like a twofold feast day. So you got it's a day of remembrance, and there's 4 of those, 4 days of remembrance on this calendar. And that corresponds also with the Day of Trumpets. And that one is an actual Sabbath. So that's going to be the first day of month number 7 on the creation solar calendar. The Zadok calendar, the Enochian calendar. It's got different monikers, but we're just calling it the solar calendar for now. So yeah, mark that in your calendars. Make sure you got that one. And then on the 10th, we have Atonement, the Day of Atonement. That's a Sabbath. So that's October 3rd of this year. And then we have Tabernacles. We got Sukkot, right? This 7 days of tabernacling and feasting. And that starts on October 8th. And it goes all the way to the 14th. And then we have a day of addition, which is an extra day of feasting. And that's a Sabbath day. So the first day is a Sabbath. The first day of Tabernacles is a Sabbath. And then on the 22nd, the day of addition is a Sabbath as well. That's October 15th. So there's a lot going on there. You can make your sukkahs. You can set up your tents. You can build a shelter, whatever you want to do. Yeah, it's a lot of fun for the kiddos. This is one I'm actually looking forward to be doing with children. So a lot of these feast days, they're fun, by yourself type of thing. But I think when you have kids involved, it just you can start acting like a kid too, right? And so I'm really looking forward to it. I have some friends who have several kids who are Torah observant, and it's fun to do some of these feast days with them. They get a kick out of it. All right, so then we're going into some of the fall months here. Not much going on again where feast days are concerned. Yeah, there's not going to be anything actually, but that's the basic gist of this calendar. Again, if you head over to Patreon, type in "Hanging on His Words" and scroll down, you can just download this PDF and you can peruse it yourself. So that's kind of what it looks like in a nutshell. Now I'm going to pull up this. So what the creation solar calendar. This is a very brief presentation, guys. If you want a more robust presentation, I have a video that I released 3 years ago, and it's called A Heavenly Calendar. So type that in the search bar on my channel. Just type in a Heavenly Calendar if you're interested in learning more about kind of just the Zadok solar calendar and the scriptures that are used to support it. And we're not going to be doing that tonight in depth. So basically, briefly, it's a 364-day calendar. And what's interesting about that is that it's exactly divisible by 7. So when you take the 364 days, you divide it by 7, that gives us exactly 52 weeks. We have 52 weeks of uninterrupted weekly cycles of 7 days. So that's really cool. Really cool. It's 12 months. There's no 13 months. It's a solid 12 months. And each quarter of the year consists of 30 days, 30 days, and 31 days. So there's an intercalary day. That's what it's called in the first Enoch. It's an intercalary day, the 31st day. So that's, or a seasonal transitional day as well. It goes into the next season. And those are four days, 4 intercalary days, and it makes up 364 days. And so the calendar dates are always on the same days of the week, which is awesome. Makes things so much easier this way as well. They don't change. They don't overlap. Sabbaths, they don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's always on this specific day on this calendar, and it doesn't change. It's just an indefinitely cyclical thing, which is awesome. Other calendars aren't like that. All right, so first Enoch 71:42 says, the year is precisely 364 days. Okay, this is Prophet Enoch. This is the same Enoch that Jude, brother of Yeshua, mentions in his very short epistle. You know, Jude quoting from the book of Enoch, calling him a prophet, saying things. And so if you guys aren't familiar with the book of Enoch, I highly recommend you check it out. First Enoch changes my life in ways that I never thought possible. Honestly, that information in that book has made a lot more sense of things in the Western canon, Western Protestant canon of 66 books. So guys, check that book out. But yeah, Enoch is asserting that the year, according to what Yahweh showed him through the archangel Uriel. Uriel is one of his 7 holy angels that took Enoch and gave him this amazing display of the luminaries. He got to be shown all of creation, really. You know, that's how amazing a man Enoch was. He was so righteous. Yahweh decided, no, I'll give you a grand display of all creation. And so Enoch got to write all this stuff down. And so he's saying it's precisely 600 or 364 days is what makes up our year. And we're going to see that again in later chapters. First Enoch 81:7 saying the year was completed in 364 days. So that's Yahweh's calendar. 364 days. That's a complete year. Jubilee 6:32 says, and command thou the children of Israel that they observe the year according to this reckoning, 364 days, and these will constitute a complete year. So Yahweh's telling Moses to teach the children of Israel that the year is 364 days. That's what a complete year is on his calendar. And so that's why I'm adhering to that type of calendar too, because it makes total sense. And I believe the Book of Jubilees is a legitimate book as well. I believe it's scripture. This is an interesting one. The compositions of David. And this is, I guess it's Cave 11, 11Q5. Can't remember exactly how that works. I think it's Cave 11, like row 5 or something. Column 27, line 27. It says, and this is one of these things that they found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's really interesting. And David, the son of Jesse, was wise and a light like the light of the sun, and literate and discerning and perfect in all of his ways before God and men. And the Lord gave him a discerning and enlightened spirit. And he wrote 3,600 psalms. It's a lot of psalms, guys. It's more than what we have in our Protestant canon here. And songs to sing before the altar over the perpetual whole burnt offering every day for all the days of the year, 364. And for the offering of the Sabbaths, 52 songs. So 52 weeks in this calendar, David would have been offering 52 songs on the Sabbaths. So that lines up. It's asserting that there's 364 days in that year as well. So that's just an interesting literature here. Songs of the Sabbath sacrifice. That's correct, Matt. Yep. Okay, what do we got next here? Jubilee 6:30. And all of the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days, and these will make the entire year complete. Thus, it is engraven and ordained on the heavenly tablets. Again, just saying, So basically, he's breaking it down. 364 days is a whole year. That's the full, complete year. And then he's saying, and all the days of the commandment will be 52 weeks of days. So if you don't like the sound of 364 days, how about 52 weeks then? Okay. So he's breaking it down in a different denomination here. We got Jubilees 2, 9-10 saying, and Yahweh appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth for days and for Sabbaths and for months and for feasts and for years and for Sabbaths of years and for jubilees and for all seasons of the years. And it divides the light from the darkness and for prosperity, that all things may prosper which shoot and grow on the earth. These three kinds he made on the fourth day. So I got the word sun highlighted here in a different color, and I got the word seasons highlighted here in a different color, and that's on purpose. It's because the sun is appointed to usher in the seasons. So when the sun moves over the equator, the vernal equinox takes place. This is the starting of spring when the sun does that. No other luminary, right? We're to pay attention to the sun. When it does that, it sets the seasons in motion. Thus the calendar, right? Wisdom of Solomon 7:17-19 says, it is he who gave me true knowledge of the forces of nature, what the world is made of, how the elements behave, how the calendar is determined by the movements of the sun, the changing seasons, the constellations, and the cycles of years. Okay, so we got Solomon here. And some of you guys may be thinking, well, Wisdom of Solomon, what's that? That's not in the book, that's not in the canon of 66. I strongly suggest you look into this book, where it comes from, which canons it's been in. It's been in the Septuagint for ever. So to me, this is a worthwhile book that we should consider. And here we have, apparently one of the wisest men on earth. Yahweh bestowed great wisdom upon Solomon, and he was saying that the Father gave him the knowledge of all these different things that he's describing on here. And one of the things he's describing is how the calendar is determined by the movements of the sun. So that's quite the assertion to make, right? He's not saying, he didn't say how the calendar is determined by the movements of the sun and moon, like a lunisolar type thing. He didn't say that he didn't say that it's determined by the moon itself. He's saying the sun. So it's important. Okay, we might leave that just for now, but I'm going to bring my astute in-house engineer on real quick here. Where am I located? Scullery Maid. I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada, on the East Coast in the Maritimes. That's where I reside. Brother George, you there, brother?
Yeah, I'm here, Ken.
Awesome. Shalom. Welcome.
Shalom. Thanks. Glad to be here again. Celebrating the first day of the first month of Yah's year.
Yes, sir.
Right now.
Yes, it's crazy how time flies. We're
really
doing this. Yeah, I think this is my fourth year on this calendar now, officially. I was aware of it for a couple of years before finally choosing this as my calendar my calendar of choice. But yeah, it's a really fascinating one for sure. I seem to learn things more and more as I continue using it.
Same here. And it's interesting too, you were alluding that there's other books that are outside of the 66 book of canons that we use. I mean, First Enoch 1, Jubilees, but there's hints, when y'all talking to Moses in Exodus and then Leviticus about, these particular months, first month, third month, and seventh months, and then the days in those months with all of his feasts that he mentions in Leviticus 23. The canon gives you no idea what that's about, but we have to go outside of this other script to other books, and then we see that it makes sense. They lock in with First Enoch, Jubilees, other scriptures that you just mentioned. You have to go hunt it, find it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, these books are invaluable, in my opinion, for helping us. If you're someone who's concerned about getting on, Yahweh's timepiece, you definitely want to be familiar with these books and what they say. Because I slept on it, honestly, for years. I knew about Enoch. I read Enoch, I think the first time was back in like 2012 or 2013. It's when I first met my wife. And I was infatuated with Nephilim. Like it was all about the Nephilim and the Watcher Angels. Like that's what I read the book a couple times and I was like, that's what stuck in my brain. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I read the courses of the luminaries and all that stuff. And I was like, whatever, like, I don't understand what that's saying. Don't care. Like, it's got to be about the Nephilim for me. So again, it's a type of book that you can just study probably your whole life, like all the other scriptures. Right. And you're going to come to different conclusions on things and change things up. And that's what I love about it.
Yes, this past week, I've gotten a lot of questions like you have and comments. Everybody's got their different calendars. So it's making me dig more and more into Enoch and things like that, where I'm seeing some other things I didn't see before that I'm going to bring up a little bit later tonight. And so I'm so glad to be here. Like you said before, we're searching for Yah's truth, and we're going to continue to search for it until we are resurrected to water and spirit. Then we'll know the truth.
That's right.
Hallelujah.
We'll have the law emblazoned on our hearts. We'll follow him perfectly, and we'll know the calendar probably perfectly. It's going to be amazing.
Everything will make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, brother. So what's on your heart? I mean, the pressing issue, I suppose, is why we've decided to choose to intercalate. Well, technically, and we intercalated last year, or you did at least. I wasn't privy of this information until we did our presentation 5 months ago.
I didn't know last year. I was following basically the calendar we had last year, which had day one of month one. I think it was on the 18th of March. And at that time, I was still learning about how to use a sundial. And by the time I got from the spring there into the fall, I was realizing more and more how I could rely on it, telling me exactly where the sun is going over the equator. That's the key. So I finally figured it out, and we'll get into that too. Well, I saw it and recorded the sun shadow occurring 5 days after. Heard it on a Sunday. 5 days after.
Sorry, 1 sec, George. 1 sec. You sound like a glitched up computer right now. And you're frozen on my end. I'm not. Okay. Are you guys seeing George? Okay. You hearing him? Okay. You mind just telling me in the chat real quick if it's something on my end or if things are sounding okay, looking okay?
I mean, I'm seeing myself move around in my screen here. I'm coming probably through your StreamYard. So, is my voice okay?
Okay, they're saying your video and audio is good. You're completely frozen up on my end, but that's okay. Just keep going. I'll try to make out the computerized, watered down version of your voice right now.
All right. Teresa just said I had to get closer to the mic again. So can you hear me all right there?
No, honestly, I'm not. But everyone in the comments everyone in live chat saying you sound fine. So it has to be something on my end, which is unfortunate. Okay. Yeah, you can just keep going, brother.
All right.
If you're there. Yeah.
So hold on now. So should I bring up? I want to talk first about I did a video on my Jew truth about recording the sun's shadow from March 8th to March 20th because I wanted to keep track of where the sun was south of the equator each day, and then as it went across the equator, where it was. And maybe I should bring up. Can you hear me all right, Ken?
I'm not. I'm really not, which is frustrating because people in the chat are saying you're fine. So it's something to do on my end. Okay. Now you're good. Now you're good. You just came back fully.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I think I want to bring up that video. I got the slides for it. We'll walk through that quickly.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to pull that up to present it. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Is that coming up?
Not on my screen, but I can. Do you want me to pull it up on my end?
Yeah.
Just the first one?
It says 2025 spring equinox. Oh, can you go to the other one? You see a 2025 spring equinox? Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to go back to the week of creation. On the fourth day of creation, Yah brought forth the sun. And he ordained that the sun to actually rotate for one full year, going north and south in one full year, 364.2425 days. So it's not an even day. And we've seen this for thousands of years. We know that for each year in the world, 1 year is 365 days for 3 years, and then the fourth year is a leap year where they add 366. So Yah created that on day 4 to be the sun sign to the world of how the seasons come in and out. And so a lot of people think that the world calendar is not of Yah, but he created it to do that. That's what we see. That's what we observe all the time. Embedded in that calendar on day 4 as well of creation, he brought forth his own 364-day year calendar. So they're all, his calendar is embedded in the world calendar. The world calendar is for the people and nations of the world. His calendar is for his holy chosen nation people of Israel, who's going to reside in the Mount Sinai area, once the New Jerusalem comes down to earth. So his calendar specifically for that location on earth. And I just wanted to state that. So when we look at first Enoch, when Uriel took Enoch up to see the calendar of Yah, it specifically shows that the 31st day of month 12 is the 364th day. And when you read Enoch, it basically is telling you, because of the equal day and equal night, that's when the sun crosses over the equator. So that's the number one key anchored date or day for Yah's calendar. That's why it's so important for us who want to follow Yah's calendars to make sure we know when the physical spring equinox occurs, because again, it's physically in the world, and we'll see that here. So I located the physical spring equinox actually when it's physically going over the equator on March 20th at UTC time, which is universal time, 8:59, which is in the morning, at latitude 0, because it's on the equator, at plus 47.10 longitude. And you can see that red indicator there on the ocean. So it was in the Indian Ocean, just east of Africa. And so that right where that's at, that's the equator at plus 47.10 longitude. So we're going to go from there. But what I did is I took recordings of the sun shadow from March 8th to March 20th on my sundial. At the same time, I obtained the data from the United States Naval Observatory to compare the two. And I've basically, since last summer, the navigational data that we see from the United States Naval Observatory is correct and can be relied on, because my sundial shows the exact same data as far as altitude, angle, and azimuth locations. Is perfectly in alignment with it. So let's see. Okay, I want to move to the next one. There we go. So that's what this slide says, that the Naval Observatory navigational data and observed sun shadow readings on a horizontal sundial always provides triangulation of the sun and moon to determine the sun and moon's physical latitude and longitude location on the Earth. It can always be done in anyone's location. It's based on their latitude location, really, because the latitude location tells you how far away you are from the equator. And it gives you the sun's perspective location, both on the navigational data from the Naval Observatory and also from my own sundial readings. And again, that proved that March 20th at 8:59 at latitude 0 and at the equator, the sun was at plus 47.10. So I'm going to walk through these slides right now. You have to move it instead of me?
Do you want me to move it? I can move it. It's fine.
Okay. So this is information that I got from the Naval Observatory. They have a part of their data services. You can go in, find out any year, what the dates are for equinoxes and solstices. So that's what I highlighted. It's telling me on the equinox is going to happen March 20th at 9:01. Well, I found it and 8:59, 2 minutes difference, which is very, very close. So I'm going to go to the next slide, and I'm going to show you, let's see. Okay. So I had to do an iterative process to find out that location. The iterative process is you keep changing your longitude location until you see that the sun's altitude angle is 90 degrees up, which is straight up or zenith. And that means that that sun is crossing over the equator at that time. So with that iterative process, I found out that it was 47.10 longitude. So go to the next slide. I'm going to show the input that I put in. This is actually part of the data surfaces when you get on their website for the location of the sun for a particular day. So I inputted the object as the sun. The date's March 20th, 2025. You can do different time intervals. I went with 1 minute because I need to see minute by minute where the sun is every minute. Then the location is at the equator, and that plus 47.10 longitude. So you can see latitude's at 0, then the longitude is 47.10. And I already knew it was in the Indian Ocean, so I just put that in there. I stayed with coordinated universal time just to provide that. That is always based on Greenwich time when you go around the different longitudes. Then at the bottom it says get data. So I click get the data and go to the next slide. So here we go. When you get the data, it tells you the altitude angles and the azimuth angle of the sun throughout the whole day. About 12 degrees below horizon in the morning is coming up, and then up to 12 degrees below the horizon in the sunset. So this UTC time 0859, we see that the sun's 90 degrees above the equator, which means it's going right over it. Okay. So go to the next slide. And so this is coming from a map showing where you can see on the equator, it's got that blue dot on the Indian Ocean.
Yep.
And you can see the coordinates there to the left. So it's right on the equator, 47.10 longitude east. And that location is just east of the continent of Africa. And go to the next slide. There's another map showing the same thing. There it is. So we get a little bit bigger on the African continent. So we see it right there in the red. So we'll go to the next one. So now we know that's exactly when the sun went across the equator on March 20th. So that's a data point and very important that's the sign for the world that when that sun goes over the equator, it's a transition day between the seasons, between winter and spring. Okay. So we realize that we've got the correct data there. And now I'm going to corroborate that using the data from the navigational data from the United States Naval Observatory and my sundial readings. So go to the next one. It seems complicated, but it's not. Just look at the date on the left side. Every day goes through March 8th to the March 20th. These UTC times tells you this is the time when the sun was basically crossing over my latitude location. Now, if you go over on the column, it says latitude observation location. 33.74 is my latitude here at Myrtle Beach. And that's constant, straight down that column. So that's where I got the data from each day. I would look at where my location is, and this is at solar high noon, which means solar high noon means I've got my sun. This is going true south. It's 180 degree azimuth, so it's high noon. You're always going to get the sun closest to you at high noon when it crosses up your timeline. And my timeline is basically the longitude minus 78.88. Okay, so that's where the data comes from. So it's telling me, and I'm pulling this right off their data, the sun altitude angle degrees, which is a column there, and then sun latitude degrees south of latitude. And I can figure that out because this is the beauty of Yah's creation. It's perfect. The sun altitude angle column for each day and the sun latitude degrees south of latitude observation, which is my location, totals up to 90 degrees. So on the data that I got on the website on March 8th, Sun altitude angle is 51.7 degrees. So now all I have to do is take 90 degrees and subtract 51.7 from it, and that's 38.3. If you add those two numbers up, you're going to get a total of 90.
Mhm.
Okay. So now that I know that the sun's latitude degrees south of my location is 38.3, well, my latitude location is 33.74 from the equator. Anybody's latitude degrees is always from the equator. So all I have to do now is subtract 38.30 from 33.74. And since, if you can see this, the latitude degrees where the sun is higher than my latitude degrees from where the equator is. That means the sun is south of the equator by 4.56 degrees latitude. All I'm doing there is subtracting 38.30 from 33.74. Now, if anybody really knows about navigation, we know that for every latitude degrees, 69 miles, actual miles. So all I got to do now is multiply 4.56 times 69 miles. At this particular time on March 8th, the navigational data is telling me that the sun is 315 miles south of the equator. So now just continue on down now as we go each day, because we know the sun's moving north every day, right? That's what it's doing now from March 8th to March 20th. You'll look down and we'll see that the sun altitude angles are getting higher and higher as we go down toward March 20th. So the altitude angles are getting higher as we go down in the different dates. We look at the sun latitude degree angles, and they're going less and less. So as we keep doing this calculation like we did on March 8th, just look at the latitude distance from the sun south of the equator. It goes from minus 4.56 to March 19th to minus 0.26 degrees latitude. If we look on the miles, we're seeing that from March 8th, it went from 315 miles south of the equator to 18 miles south on March 19th.
Yeah.
Now, this is why I separated it out the last row, because March 20th, sun altitude angle degrees is 56.4. So the altitude angle gets higher because the sun's coming farther north. Then the sun latitude degrees south of my location got higher. And so when I start to look at my latitude location now, the sun location is north of the equator. It passed the equator on March 20th, and I got it from the navigational data. It's 0.14 latitude degrees north, or 10 miles. So the navigational data is telling me on March 20th, the sun went from 18 miles south of the equator to 10 miles north. So that tells me that the navigational data is telling me it's March 20th, just like it did on the Equinox data set. And that's what the navigational data is telling us. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go to the next one and next slide. So this is basically going from right to left. This is how the sun's moving north to the equator. So this is another way to see, the distances that it's moving each day. It actually is moving about an average of 28 miles north a day during this time span. And again, you can see you're going from to the right. We start at minus 4.56 latitude, which is 315 miles south. As we keep going each day, and then we get to the March 19th, which is just south of the equator. We're 18 miles south at minus 0.26 latitude, and then it crosses over on March 20th, now being 10 miles north of the equator. So now we're going to do the same thing and check with what I got on my sundial. We'll go to the next page. Next slide. So this is my sundial that I've been using now practically for a couple of years. And I've got this thing already figured out, based on the sun, where I'm located and how the sun moves. I can, anytime I want, go out there and find out exactly where the sun is away from my location latitude wise. And that turns into actual miles. And so with the shadow readings, I can tell what gate it's in too. Okay. So, because you can see on either side of this spring equinox, and it goes down to basically the summer solstice, which you can see it's going to be a shorter shadow because it's farther north, closer to me. And then when it starts going back after the summer solstice, it's going to be a longer shadow to the fall equinox. It's going to be that same shadow length as it would be for the spring equinox. And then, the farther it goes south, the sun, when it goes all the winter solstice, I've got a long, like a 7-inch shadow.
Yeah.
And it's going to come back. So we can go to the next slide. So now I'm taking readings each day. Now there were some days you'll see the days skip because I had rainy or cloudy days and I couldn't take a sun shadow reading. But here on the left side, March 8th, my sun shadow reading is 3.5 inches. And I know my gnome height of 4.5, which will all be the same. So based on that, I can figure out what the sun altitude angle is. It's 51.81 degrees. And again, back to that calculation, I said, I know what my latitude degrees from the sun is if I take 90 degrees and subtract it by 51.81. So now I know where the sun is latitude-wise on March 8th. It's 38.19 degrees south of me. And if you added 51.81 and 38.19, you're going to get 90 degrees. This will happen all the time on each day for the figuring out where things are as far as the sun is south. So March 11th, I couldn't get any readings. On 9th and 10th, it was cloudy. March 11th, I got a 3.41 shadow, and you can see it's come down from 3.54 to 3.41. So the sun's coming north because the shadow is getting less on the sundial. And I can't read everything here because it's blocked. Something's blocking, but you all can see there. Okay. You look at the sun altitude angle for that shadow length and then the height of the gnome. It's creating a triangle is what it's doing. The sun altitude angle is 52.85. So we see it's getting a higher angle. Latitude degrees from the sun is 37.15. So it's getting closer to the equator. It's coming north. March 12th, it went down to 3.34 inches. And then we have a sun altitude angle of 53.42. Latitude degrees from the sun, 36.58. Again, the sun shadow is getting shorter because the sun's getting closer, and the latitude degrees from the sun is getting closer to the equator. So we keep going to the next page. I'll do this iteration for every day that I could do the sundial reading. So we'll just go over it quickly. We'll just see that the shadow is, well, go back a little bit. Go to there you go. So March 14th, the shadow is 3.25. March 15th, 3.22. March 17th, 3.12. And go to the next. So you see we're approaching, the shadow's approaching my line for my location where the spring equinox is, right? It's slowly getting there. So what happens here on March 18th, it's at 3.09. March 19th, it's 3.03. And right here, it went below. On March 20th, it went below the spring equinox line. So, and we can see this. Come on. So again, my location is 33.74 degrees latitude. If you look on March 19th, the latitude degree location from the sun from my location was 33.95, which tells me it's a little bit south. The sun's a little bit south of the equator because it's higher than 33.74. But on March 20th, the latitude degrees from the sun is 33.51, less than my latitude location of 33.74. So the sun went north of the equator. So now go to the next slide. We're going to pull all this in a table together like we did for the navigational data. And again, all we really need to do now is just, because we're going to do the same iteration, but let's just look at March 8th. I've got going from March 8th to March 19th. And I've got data where I could. You see where the dates where it was cloudy. But then let's follow over to the right where I show the sun location south of the equator, latitude, and then miles. So it's doing the same thing we saw in the navigational data. March 8th, it goes minus 4.45 miles from the equator to March 19th, minus 0.21. And then we see the miles. March 8th is 307 miles from the south of the equator. And then on March 19th, it's 14 miles south. But then again, on March 25th, we see that now the sun is north of the equator at 0.23 latitude, which is 16 miles. So now my sundial corroborated the same information, and it's practically this almost the altitude angles and the distances are all so close, and we're going to see that right now. Go to the next slide. Oh, actually, I'm doing the same thing here, showing on this graphic for the sundial readings that from right to left, March 8th, it's minus 4.45 degrees latitude away, 307 miles. And each day it keeps encroaching getting closer to the equator. March 19th, it's 14 miles south of the equator at 0.21 latitude. And then on the 20th, it went across at is plus 2.23 latitude, or 16 miles north of the equator. So both navigational data and the sundial are corroborating that March 20th was the sun physically crossed over the equator, and the spring equinox occurred on March 20th, 2025. I think the next slide, I start comparing between the data. Yeah. So the key here is when you look all the way across over where I show for each date the data from the Naval Observatory and the sundial, what was recorded on the sundial and then what was obtained from the data itself on their data services site. Well, if you look over to the two right columns, you'll see that their locations are so close together that on March 8th, there was only an 8-mile difference between the two. Okay. March 11th, there was 3 miles difference. March 12th, 8 miles. March 14th, 11-mile difference. So they're corroborating so well. I mean, to have that close, matter of fact, I think my sundial is probably more accurate than the navigational data, because the navigational data only goes to 1/10 of a degree, where I go to 100th of the degree, because I can actually measure it that close on my sundial. So go ahead to the next slide. So look at this. March 15th, it was right on. Both same data on March 15th between the Naval Observatory and my sundial. And then the 17th, 2-mile difference. On the 19th, 4-mile difference. And when it crossed over the equator north, my sundial said it was 16 miles north, but the Naval Observatory said 10 miles. So this proves without a doubt that we can rely on the navigational data, and the sundial can corroborate it as well. So let's see, I think that might be it. Oh, then I'm comparing both the navigational data and then the sundial, where you can see that's extremely close together. Again, proving on both the sundial information and Naval Observatory data that March 20th is when the sun physically crossed over the equator. That was actually at 8:59 on longitude 47.1, but it continues to move around. The sun never stops moving north or south. So on that day that it was the equinox, it was still moving between the 19th and the 20th, 28 to 30 miles north, right? Mm-hmm. Some people think that, and it's wrong, they think that the sun just stays on the equator for a full day. No, there's only like 1 minute in the day where it's actually crossing over the equator.
Yeah, that's well.
Yep. And then
so all that to say basically was that the U.S. Naval Observatory data, along with your own sundial findings and trackings,
yes,
corroborate.
Yes.
So there's no conspiracy. There's no, like, the U.S. Naval Observatory data isn't some fudged up numbers to try to prove a heliocentric model or anything weird like that. It corroborates your own observations with your sundial. Yes, that's what you're trying to say there, right? And exactly. That was March 20th.
Yes. And I learned a lesson last year early on. I thought, well, you can't rely on the data, but after looking at it and being able to understand how the sundial can do the same thing, you go to a point where, well, you created the sun to do what it does. They can't lie about it, and the navigational data is showing it. That's what you created it to do, and we observe it.
Yeah. So March 20th, though, right? That was the equinox.
Right.
So I guess people would say
that's the sun physically crossing over the equinox. So what that is, that's a sign to the world, people, all nations and people of the world, that the sun is now crossing over the equator. That's a day of season change from winter to spring. The next day is the first day of spring. So March 21st was the first day of spring for the world. Okay. That doesn't mean that's on Yahweh's calendar, because his calendar uses day 3 based on Enoch's description of the 31st day of month 12. Always happens on a day 3. Well, March 20 was a day 5. So
exactly. So this is why we want people to pay attention to this stuff, right? And so why we started a week later than people who claim to follow the Dead Sea Scroll calendar.
Yes.
What would you say to that, George? The Dead Sea Scroll calendar started, was it 2 days before the actual vernal equinox took place?
Yes.
Their head of the year came before the actual seasonal transitional into the spring.
Yes, and I'm going to try to now.
Why is that problematic?
I'm going to try to upload, and we need to bring that up right now because this will be perfect timing for that.
A lot of spirited comments in the chat. Lots of people wondering why we're relying on U.S. navigational data. Did the Dead Sea Scroll Zadok priests use that stuff? Like, a lot of sarcasm.
Right.
Guys, this is.
So I'm trying to.
What else we got? We got people saying that the lunar calendar, you got to incorporate this. Of course, I knew this would. People are going to come out and say things about how the lunar, the luminary should be also, acting as a witness and participating in the calendar itself too. But
like you said, the sun, it clearly says in the scriptures that the sun is the one that is the sign for all seasons, for the seasons.
Yeah.
So I just put up another, hopefully I can get to it. Maybe. No.
Which one are you looking at?
Calendar 2023 to 2029. Is
that this one?
That's not that one. That's the other one that I just loaded up. That's it. Okay. Yeah. So happy New Year.
Yeah.
So go ahead and do the next slide, because this is going to be really very interesting. So each year, 2023, and I purposely use days 1 through 7. I'm not going to use the names of days. I purposely use numbers for months, not names. Okay. So it might be hard for me to blow this up too. Yeah. So let's follow on 2023. We're going to go way back to that year. So on 2023, on U.S. calendar, the last day, the 364th day, which would be a season transition, happened on the world calendar on March 21st, 2023. And the world actually observed the physical equinox the day before, March 20th, day 2. So the reason that we always have U.S. 364th day, it's got to be on a day 3 because he created the sun on day 4. Okay. So then on the U.S. calendar, day 4 is going to be day 1 of month 1, head of the year, first day of spring. All right. So that's the start point for this. Then the next year, 2024. Now, see, the key difference between both calendars is that after 5 or 6 years, the world calendar adds 7 days. It depends on the number of leap years. In 5 years, there'd be 2 leap years. 6 years, it'd be 1. Both those 5 or 6 years in that situation will add a total of 7 days more than Yah's calendar. And Yah's calendar needs to ignore that because it's not part of his 364-day year calendar. So that's what we're going to see in 2024. And so whenever we look at this, the day 3, which is Tuesday, I want to say Tuesday, but day 3 is the end of the 364-day calendar for the previous year. Sun is in gate 3 because the sun is actually in gate 3 and it's a season transition. Well, the world syncs in with that same day. Day 3, March 19th, 2024. It's a physical spring equinox. But that day, there's been 7 extra days because we've had previous years prior to 2023 that I just didn't want to show all those years. 7 extra days. And this is what happened last year, Ken. And of course, on the 19th, that's the physical spring equinox for the world to know. And then for the world, March 20th was the actual first day of spring. But now, because we can't start it because we've got the world calendar has 7 extra days that we need to basically ignore, what I call it, rest for 7 days to basically get rid of those days because he doesn't include those in part of his calendar. So there's a 7 days of rest. You can see this days 1 through 7. So then on day 4 is then the first day of the head of the year. And that happens to be on, again, day 4, but now it's March 27th instead of what would have typically have been the 20th. Okay. And we can follow this through. You can see now when we go from 2024 to 2025, you can see how the extra day or two. So we right off the bat notice that between 2024 and 2025, the physical spring equinox jumped 2 days. It jumped from day 3 to day 5. So there's 2 extra days right there. Okay. But we maintain on that year, day 3 of Yahuwah's calendar to be that transition day, because this is where we have to make the difference. If this physical spring equinox occurred on the 20th, when it actually went over the equator, that's the actual sign to the world, physical sign that spring equinox has occurred. Yah would never basically declare that before that, because that would not be true. It'd be wrong. And if you see, right now, last week, a lot of the calendars declared March 18th, 2 days before the actual physical spring equinox. So that's why we realize that that's not the truth. The truth is that the actual physical spring equinox happened on day 5, which is March 20th, whereas a lot of people declared it 3 days or 2 days earlier on day 3, March 18th. So that's why we hold with that 7 days of rest. Now, when we declare day 3 for 2025, which is today, we've already gone past it, was yesterday now, is on March 25th. And the day we're in right now, March 26th, is the first day of the first month, the head of the year, first day of spring on Yah's calendar. Because now it's true. And so what happens is that Yah will always declare his 364th day 1 to 7 days after the physical one. Right now, if you count, you go from the physical equinox, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it was 5 days after the physical spring equinox and not 2 days before, which many people did last week. And we can follow that through 2026 here. So now we can see between 2025 and 2026, we added a day between the world calendar and Yah's. And you can see, I'm counting the numbers. So in 2025, when the world physical spring equinox happened, there was 2 extra days compared to Yah's calendar. 2026 now, the physical spring equinox is 3 extra days. Okay. So we're going to go now. What's key here is I highlighted 2024, because this is when it happens every 5 or 6 years, when day 3, the physical spring equinox and Yah's 364th day line up. They sync up once every 5 or 6 years. So go to the next slide. So this is an explanation. In year 2024, Yah's 364th season transition day and the physical spring equinox are in sync on day 3 of the week. This occurs once every 5 or 6 years due to the world calendar accumulating 7 extra days more than Yah's calendar. These extra 7 days are of the world and not part of Yahuwah's calendar. Therefore, 7 days are not recognized after the 364th day on Yahuwah's calendar and are treated as 7 days of rest, with the first day of month 1, head of the year, first day of spring, day 4 on Yahuwah's calendar being March 27th, 2024, on the world calendar. And that's that should have been done last year. So this is why when the angel Uriel, by the providence of Yahuwah, showed Enoch, Yahweh's perfect and complete 364-day year calendar on a year, when the 364th day aligned with the world's physical spring equinox, which is what we see from 01, the God's calendar, day 1, month 1 of 2023, which lines up to March 22nd, 2023. And that year goes to 12/31/24, which is on the world's calendar 03/19/24. This is what Enoch says. Enoch 72:8 through 72:32 perfectly describes Yahuwah's 364-day calendar for this year which only occurs once every 5 or 6 years. Enoch 72:31 and 72:32 state the specifics of month 12 and the 364th day. These are it. And on that day, the sun rises from the second gate and sets in the west and returns to the east and rises in the third gate for 31 mornings and sets in the west of the sky. That's month 12. And on that day, the 31st day of month 12, night becomes shorter and amounts to 9 parts, and the day amounts to 9 parts. And the night becomes equal with the day, which means the sun is physically above the equator. Then the year amounts to exactly 364 days. On the year 2024, the 31st day of month 12, the 364th day, the sun is physically crossing over the equator in its last day of gate 3. And according to Enoch, is a season transition day from winter to spring, not the first day of spring. So this is very important. This only happens once every 5 or 6 years. So Yahuwah purposely had Uriel take Enoch in that particular year, that year that we just saw, because that's the only time that's going to line up with the physical sun physically doing that. All the other years, it's not going to line up because the physical equinox is a different day of the week. Okay. And Yahweh doesn't, recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
This happens in year 2029. It's the same thing that's going to happen in 2029. So let's go to the next calendar. So we're going to continue now, 2027. See that 2027, the physical equinox occurs on day 7. Now we've got 4 extra days of compared to the world calendar, but we still see that Yahuwah's calendar stays on day 3, day 4 all the time, and in this case it's 4 days after the physical equinox. We go to 2028. That's a leap year. We see that it's on March 20th, day 2, but now it's 6 extra days, and now it's only 1 day. Yah's declaration is 1 day, so now we're coming up to another, intercalation, which happens on 2029, where they're lined up again, just like in 2024, and the world calendar's got 7 extra days compared to Yahuwah's, and we got to do the same thing, 7 days of rest. And so then we would we'd basically start day 1 of month 1 on day 4, which would be March 28th, 2029. And the same reasoning. That's when Enoch Uriel took Enoch to actually witness the full year. It had to have been. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been true. This shows us that if you try to use the world's calendar, the actual physical equinox, it changes every day, every weekday of each year, either 1 day or 2 days on a leap year. And if you do that, it's not a perfect 7 cycle. We have a perfect 7-day cycle here, but it's not part of Yahuwah's calendar. We do have a Sabbath because there is a Sabbath day there, which we would recognize, but it's not part of his calendar. Okay, so that's very key. I think the next sheet explains the exact same thing for 2029, so we don't really need to. It's the same reasoning. Okay, but now it's happened on that. 5 years after 2024. So anyone in any location on the earth can determine the exact day when the sun crosses over the equator to determine the spring equinox. And I mentioned this before, latitude degrees from the sun plus the sun's altitude angle equals 90 degrees. And this is just basic a triangle. So if you look at the triangle at the bottom there, it says the sun's altitude angle. It's looking on a horizontal plane. It's getting an angle to the sun. And then the angle up here where the sun is says latitude degrees from the sun. So those 2 angles will always equal 90 degrees. When the sun crosses over the equinox, the sun is located at 0 degrees or latitude, which is right on the equator. Therefore, during the spring equinox, the latitude degrees from the sun is the exact as the same person's latitude location. So in other words, when that's the case, the latitude degrees from the sun is going to be exactly where, if it's on the equator, exactly your location. So go to the next page. Next slide. So Ken, I'm going to build you a
getting personal.
just for your location. So I just looked up Nova Scotia, Canada. That's the latitude says it's 45.17 degrees north, and the longitude is minus 62.91 degrees west. West is always going to be minus, east is plus. So your latitude degrees from the equator is 45.17. We already know that, right? So the latitude degrees from the sun plus the sun's altitude angle equals 90 degrees. So sun's altitude angle equals 90 degrees minus latitude degrees from the sun, which is your latitude location, equals 44.83 degrees. So your sun altitude angle to see on a sundial is going to be 44.83 degrees during the spring equinox. So now we're going to build you a sundial. Anybody can do this, north or south. So go to the next slide. Okay. So again, this is a triangle. So now what we've done is, I know what the upper angle, the one close to the sun, latitude degrees from the sun, is 45.17 degrees. And then that's going to tell me that your sun's altitude angle, because these two add up to 90, is 44.83 degrees. Now, when you look down here, so you can see I made your sundial gnome height 6 inches on the vertical. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now that I have this angle, then I know the distance that on this bottom line, that's the sun shadow length is 6.03. It's almost 45 degrees, 6.03 inches. And you'll see below that on the right, the equator's at 0 degrees latitude. And here's your location in Nova Scotia, plus 45.17 latitude. And so this is the data. This is what you need to build your horizontal sundial. So go to the next slide. So you'd have to build your sundial to have a 6-inch high gnome. And then all this is showing here is right where it's 0 is where you would line up this measurement, which is basically inches. And that shadow length is 6.03 inches. That's the spring equinox where you're at. And all you have to do is now point this toward true south, and then wait for high noon when you get your solar high noon, and you would get this sun shadow degree angle length, and that would tell you that the sun's at the equinox, at the equator right there. And you could start taking it days before, and you'd see that the shadow would be south of it for a while, and it's going to come down. Once it's on the equator or gone past it, it's going to be below that spring equinox location. Anybody can do this anywhere. Just create their own sundial based on their latitude location, and they can figure out the length of their shadow based on the height of the gnome. Very simple.
Very neat. Very neat, brother. I'll have to entertain this.
Yeah, and of course you're farther north, so if you want to try to get more shadows later on for the south, you're going to have to probably make the gnome shorter, or the horizontal sundial longer to capture the shadow. Right. I use a 24 by 24 inch. Basically, it's like a cutting board. It's really nice. And then you have to make sure the feet, you can level the feet underneath. I put 3 feet on there, 2 in the front, 1 in the back, in the middle, so I can level it into, side to side and front to back. You got to make sure that happens when you do it. But as long as you have that level surface, it's perfect. It's perfect. Cool. You can track the sun all the way to the winter solstice. Might be hard for your location because you're so much farther north, but if you had a long enough horizontal sundial, it could do it. Now, when it comes farther north, the shadow is also going to get really low because it's getting closer above you with a higher altitude angle. So the shadow is going to get closer to the gnome. Yep.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah. That's sweet, brother. Real quick, I just want to say thank you to Yolanda for becoming a YouTube member here on Hanging on His Words. I appreciate you, sister, for that membership, as well as Susan Jean becoming a YouTube member as well. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys for your support. Well, brother, there's a couple people in the chat who are disagreeing. They think that, none of this makes sense. None of this lines up with the priestly orders that the Dead Sea Scrolls claim to be saying. Have you looked into that at all? Have you looked into the Dead Sea Scroll priestly orders and all that stuff?
Well, I do know that some of the Dead Sea Scroll calendars, they're still on, you know, they're going to be off for about 2 years, I think. Maybe then the third one, they're going to intercalate. They do a different way of intercalating, but if we know the physical location of the sun is crossing the equator on the spring equinox, and they're declaring before it physically happens, that's not right. Yah would not be saying a true thing there. He would always declare it 1 to 7 days after the physical spring equinox, because it would not be true.
Yes, and that's I mean the assumption. So we have Sister Colleen Mary saying it would make sense to me that it would be consecutive 364, like after the last day of the year would be the first. I mean, ideally, yes, that would be awesome if that's how Yahweh created it, but you can't deny it's a fact that there's 365.2425. I mean, the Persians even go a little.
Correct.
Aren't they renowned for being a little more calculated with they had more numbers,
they took
more precision.
The decimal point like way long, which made it more accurate. I think they were accurate to 1 second and 27,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from the time that the equator that the sun passes over the equator into the vernal equinox until it moves out of the gates, goes north and heads back south all the way back, as south as it goes, and it goes back to the equator again.
Yep.
That's 365.2425 days to do that, to accomplish that. And so we're squeezing in a 364-day calendar into that. So if you're going to go 364 days consecutively without intercalating, George, what happens over however many years?
Well, you'll be celebrating the spring equinox probably in December.
Right. So the feast days go out of whack. Things just go out of whack. And the seasons, we have the feast days in these seasons for a reason. So if I'm honest, I haven't looked into the priestly orders, the assertions that are made in those documents of the Dead Sea Scrolls that a lot of people are claiming is the truth and the way that, the calendar should be upheld. I will look into it. I think I read some stuff a couple years ago, and I remember there being something in it that didn't jive with me. I thought it seemed contradictory to some other doctrinal stuff that I was like, this doesn't seem right. So I'll have to revisit it. But these people that are adamant that we have to be following these priestly orders. But if we do, George, are they? I don't know how to. What am I asking? I'm asking, like, does it seem like if these orders are correct, these priestly orders, and the date was back before the vernal equinox took place, does that make sense that they would be doing their orders and the calendar would be set before the actual spring day would start?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make, because it's not true. Of course, because even Enoch tells us that 364th day. And again, I think it was one of those 5 or 6 days, one of those years in 5 or 6 years where it was lining up. It has to, because it had to line up for him to see that calendar that way. You know what I'm saying is that it's got to be lined up where on that day 3, the exact same day, the physical spring equinox occurs on the last 364th day. Then we know that that's what Enoch observed and witnessed that year. That year, because that's when it lines up. People got to realize that the number 7 is holy and perfect with Yah, and that he created, his creation week is 7 days. That's a perfect number. And that 1 through 7 is anchored ever since creation. It never changes. It doesn't change on Yah's calendar or the world calendar. But yet, the world calendar's got 7 extra days after 5 or 6 years compared to Yah. So you got to reconcile that. Day 3 is always going to be the 364th day on Yah's calendar, because he brought forth the sun on day 4. Now, when you start trying,
people don't like that either. People, I've read different comments about, like, why didn't we just start it on day 1? Why do we have to wait to day 4? But because the sun is what dictates the seasons in the calendar.
Yeah. Well,
right? When was it created?
He created it on day 4, and he ordained it to do what it does, and it does a 364.24.25 year. And so if you do
365.365,
yeah. And if you do, a lot of people do, if they think that you just follow the 364 and then use that actual physical date, well, you're really changing the day. You're changing the weekday. You're not doing on a day 3. Now they'll say they'll change the weekday to be 3 or 4, which doesn't seem right at all to me. To me, it seems like they're just following a chaotic worldly calendar now. That's what the worldly calendar does. It's not consistent. It's chaotic. You know, the days, your birthday changes every day of every year. It moves around just like, you know, everything else. After, you know, your birthday will change next day, then jump 2 days. It just keeps doing that because that's the worldly calendar. That's of the world. It's not of Yah's people.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. You know, obviously perusing the live chat here a little bit, and some people find it, you know, intriguing, some confused about it, some frustrated. A lot of people saying check out the priestly orders, the Dead Sea Scrolls, because this data does not line up.
And again, I guess the question is if we know if they're going to say that, you know, the world's calendar is man-made. No, it's not. Yah made this calendar. Now, I will say that the Prince of the Air manipulated the calendar. They have different numbers of days per month in the month, right? And he basically created the gods' names for the days of the week, names of the months. And he also screwed around with the first day of the year, you know, January 1. He can do all that. He can mess with that, but that's all he can do.
Mm-hmm.
And if we observe physically, when the sun crosses over the equator, what you would never declare it before that. That's untrue. I know a lot of people like to use the straight line east to west for the equinox, which is fine, and they can do that for the day. Well, when I did that back in 2024, actually, when I did the spring equinox, I didn't know any better at the time, but now that I know, you just have to take a reading on high noon, and you know exactly where the sun is in any location, and you can figure out if it's north or south of the equator. Yeah.
Let's bring this up here real quick. So we got, for example, if the equinox is on a Monday, day 2, the first day of that year will move forward to Wednesday, day 4 of that week. If the equinox is on a Friday, day 6, the first day of that year will move back to Wednesday, day 4 of that week. The first day is never pushed to the next week. That's kind of what I think. That's what Alan was alluding to with the menorah concept, right? It's depending on where it lands in the week. You put you know, the middle candlestick, and it moves back or moves forward depending on where. I think that's kind of the same concept, if I'm gathering this correctly.
Well,
I don't know.
Again, he's orderly, and I just don't see so if you had we'll go to the previous one. What was it? The first case was moved back to Wednesday.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, because it happened on March 20th, the Thursday, right? So you would just move it back. You would intercalate backwards instead of jumping ahead a week. So it's still kind of like keeping it on that 4th day.
Yeah, but then it's before the actual physical equinox happened. So
yeah,
you know.
No, I hear you. It doesn't make it, to me. It sounds like we should always have to wait for the true spring, the first day.
Right.
Once the sun goes over the equator and the vernal equinox takes place, that's when you would start. The first day, not starting it backwards.
Right.
A day.
And we know number 7 is used a lot for resting. You know, Sabbath day, 7 days rest. we got the Sabbath year, all these things at number 7. And
yeah. Servant of Christ, yes. This is
yes.
advocating a solar only calendar.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah. Guys, I appreciate the fervor, the passion in the chat. You know, I get it. A lot of people want to know, you know, where are we on this timeline, and what's God's calendar really?
Yeah.
So we just have to be patient with each other. You know, again, I'm going to continue studying. I'm going to check things out. I've got people always sending me stuff. I just don't have the time to see it all, to watch it all, to listen to it all. But the priestly order, the Dead Sea Scroll stuff, I should look into a little more. Just to see what it says. You know, what is it asserting? How are they addressing this intercalation issue? Because we clearly have to.
Right.
There's no way around it. You have to do it. So
yeah, but
this works for me though. I like currently the way that you've addressed it and have posited over the last year. To me, it makes sense. I mean, and yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like I'm still looking at things too. We always should be doing that, and if something comes up that might change something different, but Yah's a Yah, I got Yah of order, and it would not be correct for him to declare something that hasn't physically happened for the world yet. Yeah. And it's a way to keep his 364 days constantly being on the same day 3, first day of month 1 on day 4, without basically staying with that 7-day cycle, 7 extra day cycle. I mean, that's not a coincidence that he did that. Okay, it's not a coincidence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems intentional. So yeah, we're gonna go with this. This is this is why. So people want to know why
right.
You know, why we're starting a week later than others, and you know, this is still within the niche calendar group of those who consider Enoch and Jubilees and you know, solar calendar to be a true reliable calendar. Then you've got the solar calendars. Then you've got Judaism's calendar,
right,
with the 13th month. You know what I mean? There's a plethora of calendars, and so
yeah.
I feel like we are narrowing it down. It's now we have to contend. I think we have to contend with these the priestly order information. Look into that. What are they asserting in that? How are they doing it? How are they intercalating? How are they addressing this issue?
But I thought the temple was designed to be able to see the sun for the equinox, for the sun to come up, you know, and they could tell which day it was. So they were waiting for that physical thing to happen. Then they would know.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Yeah, and Brother Andy Hoy thinks that the traveling tabernacle itself was a sundial, you know, that they would use for the calendation purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, brother, I appreciate you coming on. As always, you know, you kind of surprised me by wanting to come on just the other day. You reached out, said, "Hey, I see you're doing a live stream. I wouldn't mind jumping on and kind of helping you out with this." And so I appreciate it. Are you willing to take questions to your email? Like if people want to reach out to your email or whatever, do you have an email for them to reach out to you and provide you with information and correspond?
Yeah, it's a geotruth07@gmail.com.
Awesome. And then you have a YouTube channel, obviously, as well.
Yeah. Geotruth.
How's that going? Is it growing?
Not really. I mean, it's okay. I mean, I'm glad certain people are saying they have questions, and I'll try to answer them. Yeah, I mean, it's like 1.38 thousand, which is fine.
Hey, you can do live streaming now, George.
Yeah.
Right? You can monetize now.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't need to
make a couple pennies a month.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So guys, go check out George.
Is there any more questions anybody have, or they're pretty much?
I'm not sure. It just seems like a mixture of intrigue, people who disagree, a lot of people, obviously on the Dead Sea Scrolls, you know, commenters here. I got to get going actually. I just went a little bit later than I wanted it to, but guys, I appreciate you for joining me this evening. George, of course, you as well. Brother, I love you. I love
You too.
everybody who has a heart for Yahweh, who wants to draw closer to him by doing his ways, keeping his commandments, feast days, which are on a calendar. So I get it. I get why this is an emotional thing. I understand why people are so passionate. I really do. I got to a point, if I'm honest, where I was just frustrated with it all. You get bombarded. Being an internet personality, I guess, within this community, people bombard you, right? They want you to watch this and read that and consider this and that, and I'm a heretic here and I'm wrong there, and why are you teaching this? And why all that stuff that just comes with doing this.
Yeah.
So it's fine, but it can get a little much. And so I kind of reached a point where I'm like, whatever. I'm just gonna pick a calendar. I don't even care. And to be honest, the fellowships that we have here in Nova Scotia, we have various little pockets of believers all over the province, and every one of them is on a different calendar, George.
Sure.
So whenever we want to consolidate and meet up, it's like, well, whose calendar are we going on? You know what I mean?
Right.
No one ever wants to acquiesce and be like, all right, we'll do that calendar. We all want to do our own calendars, so that's not helping much.
Yeah.
So we came to the determination recently, where we're just going to meet randomly. We're going to choose a random date that just works for everybody. It's not even on anybody's calendar, so that we can all just drop the calendars and and meet each other on a day and call it whatever the feast day is. Whatever. I think Yahweh wants us to gather. He wants us to be around each other, and not to be like isolating and thinking, we all have it right and we got to exclude everybody else because they're all doing it on different days than us. And I don't know. I've long since jettisoned that mindset of exclusionary, thinking that I'm going to only do it on my days and everyone else is wrong. Like that's an old, immature way of looking at it, in my opinion. But
definitely.
So that's how we're doing it here, man. I don't know how you're doing it, if you have fellowships in your area or how you celebrate it. Maybe it's just under your own roof, and that's just fine. But my wife and I are going to be celebrating Passover on this calendar.
Yeah, so are we.
And so we're going to do that Tuesday evening, and then our congregation is going to be meeting the following Sunday, just to have a Passover meal together. Because they all do different calendars, and we figured, hey, I'll do Passover a couple times, whatever. I don't think Yahweh's going to chastise me. I don't think Yeshua is going to pull me up in front of his throne one day when he comes and be like, why were you doing it like that? I don't know. I don't see that. I don't see them doing that.
That's a heart of love amongst fellow believers.
Yeah. I think they're going to be a little more merciful and gracious with us, because we're inundated with so much deception and so many lies we have to weed through in this day and age. And I'm just like, I think they're going to have some mercy on us, to be honest with you. I'm hoping, I'm praying. I asked the Father, it seems to be your heart, Lord. You know what I mean? Like, you haven't sent an angel to me personally. You haven't sent an angel to other people that I know that I run in these circles with, saying, no, your calendar's wrong, or you got to start here, or this is the calendar. No one's had that angelic interaction yet that I know of. And so until something like that happens, or we hear an audible voice coming from the firmament or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
something like the way they did it back in biblical days. So until that happens, I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. And that's just researching, praying that the Father would, give me the spirit to discern, and to learn and glean, and iron sharpening iron with, folks like yourself, other folks who are, on my path too. And that's how I'm going to do it.
And be willing to know that, something might come up where now it changes your thought pattern, and be humble about it. Don't get stuck on a particular thing that's going to keep you from, you don't want to be only right. Because if you think you're right, but it's not truth, it's not right. If it's truth, then it's right. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I'm glad people are agreeing with this mentality. That's good. But so awesome, brother. Appreciate you.
Sure
really do. Guys, I'm going to be going live with Sean Griffin tomorrow evening. We're going to be covering the book of First Esdras. We're doing an Honor of Kings episode. So please, if you got some free time, come join us. We're going to go line by line through that book. It's a good book. It's really interesting. So if that's something that intrigues you, come join us tomorrow. If you liked this video, please hit the thumbs up, leave some comments, share it with people on your social media. That'd be great. If you're new here and the content is intriguing to you, kindly consider subscribing to the channel. That'd be great. Go over to George's channel as well, GeoTruth, over on YouTube, and give him a subscription if you would, guys. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that'll be it, brother. I think that's good enough for tonight.
Thanks, Ken.
I appreciate you, brother. I'm gonna put you into the background here. We'll talk once I hit yeah. So yeah, guys, appreciate you so much. I love you guys. Okay, I do. I love you, even though we may not have physically shaken hands or hugged, or as Paul would say, embraced with a holy kiss. Maybe we haven't done any of that stuff. That's okay. I'm excited to meet you one day, and I'm pretty certain that we're gonna be in the kingdom, laughing and high-fiving and thinking, yeah, we disagreed on some stuff prior in our mortal years, but now we're in line and we can breathe easy and participate in things the way that they were always meant to be. And so, guys, just if there's one thing that I've learned along the way here, keeping Torah, following God's ways, is that you got to be gracious with your fellow brothers and sisters who may not be where you're at in maturity. You got to be you got to approach in love. You got to approach in love. A lot of people are so passionate to the point where their zeal and their passion comes across as judgmental and hurtful. And so we got to be better when it comes to that type of stuff when we disagree on things like calendars, for instance. So let's strive to do that. Let's strive to be better people this year. As we step into this new solar calendar year, let's strive to be better people with each other in our disagreements. Okay, let's do that. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you on the next one, hopefully tomorrow, with Honor of Kings with Sean Griffin and I, as we cover First Ezra's. Okay, have a good evening. Much love, and we'll see you on the next one.
I'm in the Lord's army. Hey, brother, have you heard the good news? Sorry, man, I'm not interested in your Latter-day Saint stuff. No. I'm talking about Sanctify Supply Company's Ken 10 discount code. All you have to do is type in Ken 10 at the checkout, and you save yourself 10% on your entire order. Wait, you mean the Sanctified Supply Company is offering 10% off of all of their website, including their shirts, which are pre-shrunk, 100% ring-spun cotton? I sure am. And not just their shirts, but everything they have on their website.
The rumors are true. Head on over to Sanctify Supply Company's website and use the discount code KEN10 when you check out to save yourself some money while simultaneously blessing both Sanctified Supply Company and hanging on his words in the process.